Talking with Baby doesn't just teach signs, but helps to give you a language you'll share with your baby. I think, as you will see, the most important gift you can give your baby is the gift of language, of sharing two-way communication. You'll start by learning and using functional signs, and then you'll build on those signs into a language you can share with your baby. The book keeps signs in context to daily activities so that using signs will come naturally for you. Talking with Baby will also introduce colors and concepts. Come Sign with Us, The Adventures of Pots and Friends is not the typical book you pick up and read to your baby. It's a system of learning sign language and how to incorporate it into your life. I will explain how the book works at the end before questions. What makes Talking with Baby unique is that it is not a DVD or a video. You will learn signs as you are reading stories to your baby. The book is a great way to introduce literacy. There's nothing more nurturing or bonding than sharing a book with your baby. The first 2 stories for Come Sign with Us, The Adventures of Pots and Friends, was published in June 2009, and February 2010 received a Mom's Choice Award for educational products. I hope to provide you with some interesting information, and if you are undecided about teaching your baby to sign or not sure how to start, I hope this will help you move forward with teaching your baby. I think you'll be surprised that it's not as hard as you think, and you'll have a lot of fun doing it. I'd like to start by saying I'm going to be referring to the word baby, and that my baby, Chad, also known as Pots, just turned 18. So that should give you an idea this is not just for infants. Signing is for any nonverbal child, baby, who needs a language. Or, as you will see from one of the studies, signing can provide additional benefits for typical preschoolers as well. Chad was born with Down syndrome and later diagnosed with autism. When I decided I wanted to publish a book that would help parents learn and teach their baby sign language, my initial thought was to help families that are raising children with special needs, just like me. But as I was doing the research for the project, I can see that signing is for all babies, and most all babies can sign. I'll be telling you some stories about babies that are signing. In particular, I'll be telling you a few stories about baby Evie. Baby Evie, at 7 months of age, was the first baby to get and use Come Sign with Us, The Adventures of Pots and Friends. Her mother said whenever she tried to read books to her, she wouldn't sit still but would run around the room. Since the book is in tent format, Evie was put in her high chair, given some cookies, and introduced to the book. When the 2 of them came to my house to take this photo, baby Evie started crying because she thought her mom was going to leave her with me. I put the book in front of her, and immediately she stopped crying and started looking around the room for her mom. I could tell she was familiar with the book, and I could also tell the book gave her a different kind of experience from her other books. In this picture, you can see Evie signing the word more. Evie's first 3 signs were more, baby, and bubbles. One day, while riding in the back of the car, Evie's parents asked her to say baby. Getting no response, they looked in the back seat to find her busy signing baby. Where did American Sign Language come from? According to the National Institute on Deafness and Other Communication Disorders, sign language came to America from the French. Thomas Gallaudet of Gallaudet University brought the language to America in 1817, along with a French teacher. Gallaudet University is a university for people who are deaf or hard of hearing and is located in Washington, D.C. We started signing in 1993, just after Chad's first birthday. His special ed teacher was at our house one day, and she said she thought we were going to need to teach him to sign. My first thought was, how am I supposed to do that? At that time, I was managing the schedules for 27 people between doctors, nurses, therapists, his special ed teacher, and caregivers, because Chad had been in the hospital very ill for 8 days with pneumonia. Learning sign language sounded like a lot of work, and I had no idea where to start or how to start. And maybe that sounds familiar to some of you. But this is how we started. I watched as his teacher began by teaching Chad the sign for more. And if you haven't started to learn or teach sign, maybe these tips will help you begin. Chad loves music and things that spin, so using a musical top was key to getting the first sign. Some parents like to use food as an incentive, but for us the musical top worked best. The teacher would give the top a short spin, and when it stopped, she said, "More?" as she did the sign. Chad would look at her hands when she modeled the sign, then she would spin the top again. When it stopped, she repeated, "More?" She signed the word, then took his hands to help him make the sign. She repeated this several times, and in that one setting, he learned the sign. As I remember watching him, he was so interested in wanting to see the musical top spin that he wasn't even aware that he was learning something. I began using the sign for more in different situations. He began signing more and added his next two signs, book and wrestle. It wasn't long before he was pairing or putting signs together like more book and more wrestle. On the weekends, when I had more time to work on signs, Chad would learn 5 to 6 new ones. Once he learned that making forms with his hands meant something, it was really easy for me to teach him, and he started learning the language. I wasn't sure where to start, so we started with animals and the letters of the alphabet. You will want to be familiar with the sign alphabet, as well, since directions on how to do a sign may start with one of the letters. For instance, to sign water, use the letter W and tap your chin with your forefinger 2 times. I found as time went on, learning the sign alphabet is helping Chad with his reading. I learned early that Chad learned best from me, his parent, and that I could teach him more because I was with him more than anyone. The studies I will be showing you talk about how important it is for parent involvement for success, especially when it comes to language development. At the end of Chad's 4th grade, he had 400 signs. He had 600 signs at the end of the 6th grade. When Chad was 2.5 years old, he started school services outside our home. And it was hard to see him getting on the bus. He wasn't even walking independently. But he had about 20 or so signs he had been using at home. At that age, he already had his first behavior assessment. And I knew that communication was going to be an issue if no one at school could speak his language. I sent one of his personal care attendants with him. Her job was to be the communicator between home and school and to transition the signs Chad was using at home and learning at school. That first year, he fell in love with the school sit and spin, and his personal care attendant gave him one for Christmas. One day, he made his way to the kitchen where I was, and he made a noise. I knew he was asking for something, but since he didn't have any words, I didn't know what it was. I then realized he must be asking for the sit and spin. I pointed it out to him, but noticed he didn't move. He just stayed there and stared at me. I realized he wanted me to name this toy. I had to think on my feet because I was still learning signs myself. Since the sit and spin is yellow and spins, I decided to sign it yellow spin. I used the sign for yellow, and I used my forefinger in a spinning motion for spin. He repeated in sign and verbalized "la la pin." That was a watershed moment for me. It told me how powerful sign language is and how much he depends on it for his communication. In fact, as time went on, he thought everybody signed. When he met a new person, if they didn't sign, he wasn't that interested in that person. He had learned a way to communicate with people using sign, and if they didn't share the language, he didn't have time for them. I was seeing the benefits of signing and started to do some research about babies and signing. So, what are the benefits of teaching a baby to sign? Over the past few years, a lot of information is available about babies and their use of sign language. You probably already know that if baby can sign when they want something, it reduces frustration. Signing can slow communication and facilitate clear communication. Signing also helps with speech, so if someone says not to sign because your baby won't talk, that is not true. Signing can also build babies' vocabulary, and it can help with reading as well. Who would not want the extra 10 to 12 points added to baby's IQ? Signing can do that for your baby too. What happens when your baby learns to sign? How and why does it work? Babies are born to sign. To simplify this, the part of the brain that works with sign language develops faster than the part of the brain that works with speech. Babies' hands are developing faster than the muscles in and around the mouth that are used for speech. This is why it's natural for babies to sign. I hear parents say their baby makes up signs for things they want. I suggest adopting American Sign Language so that other people will be able to talk to your baby too. After all, it's just as easy to sign a word the right way as it is the wrong way. Another reason signing works so well for babies and children is that it is visual. For instance, to sign the word milk, just pretend you are milking a cow. Or to sign the word banana, use a forefinger to simulate a banana and use your other hand to pretend you are peeling it. Can you see the picture in your mind? In the study I will share with you about a boy named Ted, you will see why signing and the fact that it is visual worked so well for him. There are times when Chad signs something to me and he'll change his mind about what he wants to say. He will actually erase the air in front of him and start over. It's not unusual to see this from children who sign. There are two parts to learning and using language. Those two parts are receptive and expressive. The reason I'm talking about this is to make a point about the receptive part of language in particular. Even when your baby begins to say some words, you should continue to teach sign language. When you sign to your baby is receiving lots of information, and never underestimate what your baby is taking in. I'll give you two examples. When Chad was in grade school, his team worked hard to help him learn how to communicate with sign language. And by default, the rest of his class was learning sign as well. One of his classmates had autism and was nonverbal. One day, my sister went to pick Chad up for private therapy. My son and his classmate were in the 5th grade and had transitioned to a new school. My sister sat down in the office area and saw the little boy with autism wandering around. She caught his glance and signed, "Sit down," and pointed to a chair. The little boy looked at her. She signed it a second time, and he followed her instructions and sat down. She had never seen this little boy before, nor did he know who she was. Even though he could not speak, he was receiving the message he learned from sign language from a stranger. I've never read the book to baby Evie, yet whenever she comes to my house, I admit I like to test her. One day she saw some colored circle stickers. They were yellow, red, green, and blue. In the second story of Come Sign With Us, the colors yellow and red are introduced. I said, "Evie, show me yellow." Without hesitation, she pointed to yellow. Then I said, "Evie, can you show me red?" I watched as she bent over the stickers, and it was taking a long time, I thought, for her to tell me. I opened the book to the page where Mom is putting a red towel around baby. She instantly pointed to red, pulled the sticker off, and planted it on the page. Evie was neither saying nor signing the words yellow or red, yet she understood the meaning of the words. Baby Evie was not yet 2 years old, so probably about 22 months. I was curious when babies should be able to name colors, and I found this information on babycenter.com, and I quote, "Your child's ability to recognize different colors heats up at around 18 months. At the same time, he begins to notice similarities and differences in shape, size, and texture. Then it will be a while longer before he's able to name the colors. Most children can name at least one color by 36 months. The expressive part of language is using what you've learned and putting it into language to communicate with others. It is important for children to be able to express themselves. In my home, signing became very important to help control bad behaviors, and it was essential that everyone involved with Chad know how to communicate with him so they can understand what he's trying to say. I jotted down some notes from a conversation I had a few years ago with a professional who works mainly with children with autism. However, if you have an infant, a toddler, or a child that is nonverbal, with or without special needs, this applies to every child who needs help with communication to express themselves. Here are a few of the reasons turning receptive communication into expressive communication and involving everyone is so important. A child cannot be challenged or learn new things if people are not using the same language. If people, and when I refer to people, I'm including teachers, caregivers, daycares, and everyone involved with your baby. If they do not know your baby's language, your baby will probably be ignored. Or, if people do not understand what your child is trying to say, they will ignore a request, which can result in an undesirable behavior. And that person, since they cannot communicate with your child, can't teach them how to have a different outcome. For instance, how do you help them learn how to ask for something? Your child may be doing more listening than communicating if no one understands them. Professionals should help reinforce what your child is saying, and your child should be able to communicate all day long. If you have a child with special needs and or defiant behaviors, professionals may know how to get bad behaviors under control with restraints and special holds, etc., but that will not change why the behaviors happen if they're not using the same language as your child to teach them differently. What happens when your child makes a request and no one understands them? If communication is not a shared language, your child may not have a way to not make bad behaviors happen. In our situation, we learned that Chad's behaviors were different when people could communicate with him. We learned that he really likes people, and he valued those that knew his language and could communicate with him. Not long ago, Chad woke me up in the middle of the night to tell me he needed medicine for his ear. I gave him something to take the pain away so he could go back to sleep. The next day, we removed wax from his ear. He used the sign for medicine and pointed to his ear as a way to tell me how nice this was to know what the problem was and to be able to help him. We could have had a very different outcome if we didn't have this language. What do experts say about baby and language? At the University of Washington, baby language and how they learn is studied at the Learning and Brain Institute, Sciences Institute. Their studies show that babies seem to learn language best from people, and it's language that leads the way to learning. People provide the best learning environment because they nurture, show support, and they can stimulate the baby by providing physical interaction. This helps with language development. Nothing boosts baby brain power than the one-on-one interaction. This is the best way to learn language. In their research, they studied babies from 8 to 16 months of age. This is the time when language skills start to form. They studied infants who regularly watched baby videos and learned that these babies understood fewer words than babies that never watched videos. Babies pay attention most to what is emotionally arousing, and they are interested in human voices. Language skills provide the foundation for further learning, and parents can improve their child's IQ in their early years with the amount of verbal stimulation they give to their baby. During development, the baby's brain is making all kinds of connections and learning things like water is wet and snow is cold. Parents use their own special baby talk, unique to their culture, and that is why babies learn best from their parents. The university suggests playing, singing, and reading aloud to your baby in an interactive way to help with language skills. What about using sign language for preschool or school-age children? Is there any benefit? In an overview of a study from the University of Denver about using sign language and how it influences language development for these students, the study began with the following observations. First, signing can lead to increased receptive communication. Secondly, signing can improve some reading skills. And lastly, there is greater success when a teacher has a higher knowledge of sign. Sign language and the sign alphabet were then introduced. The result was better receptive and expressive language, an understanding of phonics, and improved sight vocabulary. Sign language and the sign alphabet was introduced in a study with Spanish-speaking students as well. These children did not know any English words or understand the letters of the alphabet. After 1 year of sign language intervention, nearly all the kindergartners were reading at a first grade or above level. They were able to read at the level of their English peers. Studies show that babies can learn more than one language at the same time. This is because the baby's brain is making connections to new things. It's good to teach your baby the sign alphabet to help introduce phonics. If my son doesn't understand a word correctly or pronounces the word wrong, I can use the letters on my hand to help him hear the word better. For instance, I use a few letters to sound out a name, using the letters M, K, N, L, or Makano, which stands for Makano. In the study of using sign language with older children, again, it showed that students did better when the teacher had a higher level of knowledge than the students. I mentioned I would share a study with you about a boy named Ted. Ted is a nonverbal 9-year-old who is diagnosed with autism. As an infant, he didn't cuddle or seem to feel pain. A professional described him as resistant to unfamiliar surroundings, a screamer, and he didn't respond to language or react appropriately in social settings. At age 2, Ted had no words, and whenever producing a sound would get emotional. It wasn't easy for him. At age 3, he was given a computer interaction language program. After 18 months, he was the most unresponsive child in the study. They added individual language training and group play therapy, but no result. At age 5, his IQ is 46, and he tested at a little over 2 years of age. At age 6, he was classified as childhood autistic with bizarre gestures, who had tantrums, and still no speech. At age 7, he went into a day training and educational center for 6 hours a day. The educators tried a reward system using food and tokens to try to get him to talk. At age 9, still nothing. However, he started to point to objects and pull on people for their attention. The teacher thought Ted had improved on his receptive language because since he could point to various objects, he must have an understanding of what they are, and so they decided that maybe sign language would be helpful. Using the sign was based on 2 things. First, the teacher could model Ted's hands to make the signs, and secondly, signs can look like what they actually what they mean. So remember how to sign milk and banana and how they are visually in your mind? What I like most about this study is that neither the teacher nor the parents ever gave up trying to teach Ted how to communicate. Some educators may have provided pictures for Ted as a way to communicate his wants and needs. For some children, this may be the only system that works for them. What I was told once by a professional is that pictures are not language. Teaching Ted how to sign changed his life in just 6 months. Ted was able to communicate when he needed to use the bathroom, resulting in less bladder accidents. He was able to control his bowel movements completely by using sign to tell others when he needed to go. His tantrums decreased. He had less frustrated, bizarre movements, and he was better able to focus. And he could interact socially with different people. All the strategies they tried did not reach the cognitive and language areas like sign language did. The study showed his level of functioning on IQ tests improved. Ted continued to build on his signing skills even after the study was finished. Since the brain stores language differently than speech, it may be the reason Ted improved so well. It could also be that because sentences and thoughts involve fewer words, it was easier for Ted. It's interesting to note that the study is from the mid-70s, with references dating from 50s, 60s, as well as the 70s. Reading plays a part of building the receptive part of language. The University of Washington suggests read out loud to your baby. It is the key component for language. So when should you start reading to your baby? The University of Minnesota's Early Childhood Department suggests that you bring your new baby home and begin reading. Read books that are simple and use repetitive text. Since babies learn from repetition, rereading the same book is good for them. Personally, I found there was nothing more nurturing than when I read to Chad. There isn't anything that can replace that special bonding when you share a book with your baby. And your baby loves the one-on-one attention they get from you. Books are a healthy way to introduce your baby to the world and to learning. So what happens when you read to baby? What are the benefits of reading to your baby? Reading builds receptive communication. It promotes listening skills. It will increase the number of words your baby hears. It will develop their attention span and memory. Baby will learn about the concept of print. They will learn to get information from illustrations. Books will also promote bonding, which is calming to baby and parent. It stimulates senses and opens the way for baby to love books and learning. When you read and teach a child to read, you stimulate their imaginations and open their world. I recently had the privilege of meeting 7-month-old baby Matthew. He was adorable. You can see his story on the Talking with Baby website and follow his progress with the book, which is coming. Matthew's mom started reading and signing with the book when he was only a few months old. The feedback I was getting is that he loved pictures and got a hoot out of watching his mom sign. I was anxious to meet baby Matthew because he's at the age where babies begin signing. I started by reading the first story, and it was very clear he loved the pictures. I read the story slowly, and occasionally he would look at me. When he did, I would repeat whatever line I was reading so that I could model the sign I was using for him to see. For example, I would say, baby likes more banana, more milk, and more cereal. I would say and model more. Baby wants more. His eyes told me he was listening and processing the information. I started to turn the book around to read the second story about taking a bath, but Matthew let me know he preferred the first story. I wasn't able to read the second one to him, and that's okay because there's a lot to learn in the first story. I brought a new toy for Matthew, one that lights and spins. As I presented the toy to him, I made it spin, the lights went on, and his eyes didn't leave it. I followed the same steps my son's special ed teacher did. I would spin the toy, I signed more, and I made the toy spin again. Baby Matthew started moving his arms towards each other, and I immediately praised him with more. You want more? And the toy would spin again. He continued to move his arms together whenever I asked him more. It's important to give your baby time to respond so they can process the information. It helps them learn about taking turns and how to communicate respectfully in social situations. Matthew's mom said she saw him doing this motion before when she was feeding him, but thought he was just waving his arms. She was expecting him to be putting his fingers together like she did to sign more. As soon as your child makes an effort to make a sign, immediately praise them and help model the sign correctly. And certainly do not give up if you think your baby is not learning. Babies are working towards getting control of their muscles and their eye-hand coordination. So their signs will look a little different. It's important to encourage your baby and model the sign correctly yourself and say, "Oh, you want more," and help baby make the sign with their hands. Most babies will sign the word more first. However, I read about a family who worked hard teaching their son signs, got nothing. Then one day in a hardware store, they were in the lighting department, and he signed light. So you just never know. The Bismarck Tribune covered a story about a daycare center where they teach signs to infants up to 16 months of age. They experienced less biting and felt signing helped with communication. They noted that babies who were signing at home, along with the center, had the most improved communication skills and can even tell you when they need a diaper change. When it was time to start transitioning Chad out of diapers, I thought long and hard about how I wanted him to express himself when he needed to go. I saw lots of small children using the word, and I can hardly say it, potty, in public, and which usually got some unwanted attention. I decided that since I didn't know how far Chad would go intellectually, I would teach him to say and sign bathroom. I didn't want him to be 20, 30, or 40 years old and still saying potty. I'm not sure how daycares approach this, but in the second story of the book, the words wet and dry are introduced. You can say and sign wet, 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 and dry, dry, dry when changing your baby. Later introduce the sign for bathroom. If your baby can't say the word, they will learn in time, and you will have taught them a respectful way to tell you they need to go. Just use the letter T and twist your wrist back from side to side. The daycare also noted that signing has helped with verbal speech. However, when asking some children to say a word they know how to sign, they might not verbalize it. In my experience, if Chad is hesitant to say a word, he'll sign it, and I'd rather he sign something than to have a behavior outburst because he can't communicate. Babies will begin to put 2 and 3 signs together, and then real language is happening. To help with transitions through the day, I often sign to Chad what his schedule will be, and it usually involves 5 or 6 different events, and helps him understand what order they will occur. It helps him get ready for his day and lets him know who he will be seeing. Children who have strong educational start between birth and 5. In a more recent research I did, they extended that to age 8, citing use your brain or lose it. But these children are more likely to succeed in school and as adults. An editorial in the Star Tribune compared child care across daycare centers, schools, and home care, and who they rate when it came to early learning. The environments that stimulate babies' minds are laying the groundwork for academic success, and dollars spent on early intervention are well worth their investment. Communicating using signs works so well for my son and I that I wanted to know what other parents thought about teaching their babies to sign. So I started doing mini informal interviews. Comments I heard were, how will we learn? Who will teach us? What signs should we use? When should we start? When will I have time? Where will we learn it? Why should we learn it? And how do we start? Some parents told me they picked a particular daycare because they use sign language, but these parents could tell me only a couple signs their baby knew. They were not generalizing or using the signs outside the daycare. A father told me his daughter was learning sign language from TV and then asked me what a certain sign was she was doing. How sad for his daughter, she was signing play to her father and he didn't know what she was trying to tell him. But the saddest interview I had was with a young, very proud father who was holding his 8-month-old son. He told me he was not considering sign language because his son would have plenty of time to talk later. I was stunned and I felt sad for his baby. I think if the father knew the benefits of giving his son a language, he would be teaching him how to sign. I learned that signing can do much more than make requests for basic needs. As I mentioned before, my son had his first behavior assessment when he was 2, and please note this was not for good behavior. I accidentally found out that using sign language is a great way to control behaviors. One night, Chad was screaming over something he wanted. We started having an argument. I think we've all been in that situation when your voices get louder and everyone gets frustrated. Finally, I shut my mouth and I signed no without saying it out loud, and it was over. I remember thinking how much easier that was and what little effort it took, and we were both calmer. So how can sign language help control unwanted behaviors? In the second story of the book, the word no is introduced. One day when baby Evie was at my house, she saw me plug in a string of lights. I noticed she was interested in the outlet. Most children will look to see where you are before they do something they shouldn't. I waited until she turned to look at me, and I simply signed no. She verbalized no out loud and walked away and never went near the outlet again. On another visit, she was opening and closing the freezer on my refrigerator. The freezer is on the bottom, and it's just her size to look in. I believe there's a certain amount of explore and play time, but then enough will be enough. I started to say, no, stop, all done. But nothing worked. I finally caught her eye, signed no. She didn't touch it again. And remember, I've never read the book to baby Evie, but I can speak her language and she understands. You can try these words introduced in the first 2 stories for behaviors: no, sit, and finished. It's equally important to praise your baby as well. You can use, you are the best. Thank you, good, boy, girl, work, job. And for more advanced signing to prompt your baby to communicate, you can start by saying, baby want, I want, to see if they can finish the sentence. Will it be to eat, a drink, a baby doll? With all the products available to help you learn sign language, how is talking with baby different? When I first started learning and teaching sign language to Chad, I found many obstacles. First, I was shocked to see that there were so many people working with children with special needs that didn't know how to sign. I saw that even teachers, daycares, or caregivers that were teaching baby to sign, it didn't sound like they were doing much more than basic signs, or that parents didn't know what their babies were learning. When that happens, baby is unable to generalize the information and build on their skills. If the parent doesn't know what the baby is signing, it doesn't help curb frustrations at home or in the community. As Chad's sign vocabulary grew, it became necessary to find a way to let everyone know that what signs he was using. I used to take words along with how to sign them on the walls, but that didn't work very well for us. I constructed my own book of signs, and that worked for a short time. I didn't teach everyone how to use them or remind them how they should be used. I learned there can be different signs for the same word, so sign consistency was a problem. To me, it doesn't matter which ASL sign is used, just pick one, and everyone will use it. Words taught do not go together, making signs harder to remember and incorporate into a language. And I found some people felt very uncomfortable using their hands to communicate. I found reading to Chad was fun. He loved having his mother's attention, and nothing can replace that special time together when you share a book. Books are great learning tools, a great way to connect with your baby. One night, as I was reading one of our favorite books, I started to wonder how to sign some of the words I was reading. So 7 years before the book was published, I envisioned that using a storybook with a word signed above the words would help families learn signs while teaching their babies. A book would bring families together and help them learn to incorporate signs in daily activities. It would also give caregivers something to do while they are on duty. And they would know how to communicate with him as well, which would reduce his bad behaviors, help him move forward with his communication skills, and open new experiences for him. I decided that introducing words that went together made sense. The idea is to read a story about an event, a daily activity, do the activity using those signs, then come back to the story and learn some more. I then decided to color code the words. Color-coded words would let you know what words you already learned how to sign, and when you read future stories, you could easily reference that word by color if you forgot how to do it. Signing and holding a book didn't sound like it worked very well, so I decided to have the book stand up. The book stands on the table in a tent-style format, so you can sign and read at the same time while baby watches you. It also frees your hands to help your baby form the signs you are teaching, and since your hands are free, you're able to hug your baby with praise when you see a sign emerging. I saw that people, mostly the young men that worked with Chad, were a bit shy about using their hands to communicate. And the visual of how to do the sign would be helpful and would give people confidence that they're doing the sign correctly. Families would not need to wait for a teacher or class to show them how to make a sign. You can see the sign in video as many times as you need to feel confident that you are doing the sign correctly. I created Talking with Baby to help parents learn to talk to their babies in a language using sign. It introduces literacy at the same time. Stories about things that happen every day will help everyone use the signs while doing those activities with baby. Research shows learning signs in context and one-on-one is the best way to learn language. But talking with baby doesn't stop with simple signs. The books will introduce colors and concepts with each story. Talking with Baby uses Signed Exact English, also known as Signing English, using the signs from American Sign Language, which has its own language. Signed Exact English can be thought of as signing exactly as you would say it in English. The difference was described to me by an ASL interpreter this way. Signed Exact English would say, I am going to the store. When saying the same thing in American Sign Language, it would simply be, store, I go. This is a very simple explanation. There's more information on the internet if you're interested. Talking with Baby is an excellent way for new parents to learn sign and to teach their baby if there is a hearing issue. It's also helpful for extended family to learn some basic functional signs as well. There's a separate, distinct culture for people who are deaf and hard of hearing. So if your child fits in that category, you'll be getting more formal education from professionals who are educated to help you as your baby grows older. The mission statement for Talking with Baby is to enhance the world for the nonverbal child by providing a consistent format for learning and using sign language to be shared by everyone caring for children. By providing a baby with language, they can participate socially and enjoy more of what the world has to offer them. I think you can see how Talking with Baby provides a consistent format by selecting the signs and providing a book that everyone can share and learn from. Let me give you an example of how it will enhance the world for your child. Chad loves chocolate milkshakes. Whenever we drive by the place I usually get them, he will sign milkshake. I would stop and buy him one. I soon came to the conclusion I cannot buy him a milkshake every time he does that. What I learned is that he wasn't always asking me for a milkshake. He was telling me where he got his milkshake. He is becoming aware of the world around him. Remember that when you're shopping with your baby and they sign something, it doesn't necessarily mean they want that item. It could mean they're communicating with you. That's the to enhance the world part of the mission statement. I'd like to explain the meaning behind the Talking with Baby logo. The hand sign is a sign for I love you. There are 6 colors in this rainbow. Each color is a separate story. There are 2 stories in each book. In the first story, Young Breakfast Time, all the words you learned to sign are in the color red. Above the word is a sign symbol. In the second story, Bath Time Bubbles, all the words you learned to sign are in orange with the sign symbol above it. You'll see red words, but the sign symbol is gone, letting you know you already learned that sign. And if you need to reference it, you know which story it came from and the context it was used in just by the color of the word. There are 19 signs you will learn in the first story and 19 signs you will learn in the second story. A total of 38 functional signs you learn from the first book. To support how to do the sign, each story it has a page listing all the signs you will learn in that story. Remember the studies that said there's better learning when the teacher knows more than the student? It'll be important to learn the signs, or at least be familiar with them before reading the stories. And when you start, decide which signs you want to learn first. Baby Leah and her family will be sharing their experience with the book on the Talking with Baby website. It'll be fun to watch her grow as she's using her signs. Her older brother, not yet in school, really likes the page that lists all the signs. One morning I was backing out of my driveway and he was signing good morning to me. He also helps his mom sign eat to baby Leah when she gets a bottle. Language, after all, is a family affair. You can see the visual of how to sign water here as we talked before. If you know the signs in advance, you can capture every teachable moment when you are not reading the book. For instance, you can say, put the toy in the box. Did you look under the table? Are you finished? Please sit. And certainly use the signs during eating and bath time that you learned in the book. Chad's deaf and hard of hearing teacher, Peg, models all the signs and video on the website, talkingwithbaby.com. You can see each individual word as many times as you need so that you feel confident you are doing the sign correctly. Whenever I show the 2 pages of signs to parents, I can see they get overwhelmed by the number of signs to learn. I wanted to create a product that would give you a lot of value so you could come back to the book over and over and learn new things. Start slowly, review all the signs you will learn, and start by using 1 or 2. Try to incorporate them through your day, then add another sign or 2, and before long you'll be talking with your baby. Here are some tips for the book. First, think of this as your baby's first textbook. This is a tool you can teach with. Keep the book up for easy access to read and to remind you how to do the signs. The book should travel with your baby to daycare, church, babysitters, grandparents, so everyone can read it and will know what signs your baby is learning. It's amazing the look on baby's face when someone else uses a sign, and you'll see it creates an instant connection. Use the signs used in this book page, the one we just looked at, to track your milestones. Put down the date you started using the book, and when baby learns a new sign, a new word, put the date beside the word, so that everyone will know baby is using that sign. If you have more than one child using the book, use a different colored ink for each child. If you're working with an older child who may want to turn the pages by themselves, try attaching a Post-it note tab on the side of the page, and they can use the tab to turn the page. Since the words are color-coded, this could be the first book your baby or older sibling could read. And I can't stop without telling you one last story about baby Evie. If you know Evie, you know she loves chocolate. Evie, along with her mom and dad, had just finished eating one night, and Mom gave everyone a piece of chocolate fudge for dessert. After eating it, Evie verbalized that she wanted more. Her mom verbalized no, and after arguing with Evie, she got up from the table. And standing in front of the refrigerator, she felt a tap on her leg. She turned around to see baby Evie signing. Not saying, but signing more. Obviously, just too cute to deny that request. You need to be prepared for the fun things that will happen when your baby learns sign language. What I hope to accomplish with Talking with Baby is to create a learning tool that helps you learn sign language so you can teach your baby. Everyone else can talk to your baby too. The studies prove that when everyone is involved, your baby will have more progress. Mostly, I hope that however you choose to teach your baby how to sign, that you will love talking with your baby.